Today I'm testing a machine from a brand we haven't really had that many bikes from recently. The brand's Indian, and the bike is this. It's their Sport Chief, which if you're after an air-cooled, large capacity V-twin, this is probably it. So when it comes to large capacity air-cooled V-twins, the choice isn't that big anymore. Even Harley Davidson, the kings of air-cooled V-twins, are now oil air-cooled. But this 890cc V-twin from Indian is still air-cooled, and it still is the real deal. So along with almost having a 1.9 litre V-twin power plant, this Sport Chief's got some pretty impressive figures. One of the biggest ones, I guess, might be that it actually tips the scales at 330 kilos, fully wet and ready to ride. That's pretty heavy, but it's got some sporting intentions. So things like the monoblock Brembo brakes, 19-inch front wheel and 16-inch rear, only 180 section rear tyre, and this steeper steering geometry give it a sort of sporty stance. And really that 330 kilos, once you lift the bike off the side stand, tends to disappear. Now, I love the look of this Sport Chief. I love the grey colour. I think it looks really sharp at the moment. And this small bikini fairing, I think looks a bit Mad Maxy, something that you might have seen on a Suzuki GS1000 back in the day. It's also quite high tech. It's got this awesome TFT round screen that we first saw with the FTR 1200, and it's got all sorts of neat tricks. There's maps on there. You can change the look of the speedo, and you can do all sorts of things, control your music, all that sort of stuff, all in the one dial. Now overall you look at the Sport Chief, and with sport in the name, and it does appear to be quite sporty. There's a huge amount of torque from this power plant, so it really is a giggle on the road. Only sort of 83 horsepower, but I think 165 newton meters of torque, which come in about 3,000 RPM, and it really is arm stretching when that torque kicks in. But it is still a cruiser, and you have to keep that in the back of your mind. Forward mounted pegs, which tend to stick out quite far, and before you know it, you go tearing into a corner, probably a little bit faster than you should, and those pegs are dragging on the grounds, leaving a big arc of metal on the corner around the road behind you. Thankfully, the rest of the package, including those 43mm upside down KYB forks and those Brembo monoblock calipers, are there to save you, so you can really scrub off speed in a hurry if you need to, especially bringing the back brake into the equation. The steering is relatively light, but quite narrow handlebars, and you sit quite in the bike, and with the handlebars positioned up in front of you, you can't steer it as fast from side to side as you probably would if you thought you were riding a naked Sportster. So there is still that cruiser coming along in the background. Now obviously the beauty of the bike is that ginormous air-cooled power plant, but what do we get from air-cooled V-twins? We get heat, and even though it's autumn here in New Zealand, it's not particularly hot today, probably only 20 degrees, you can still feel the heat a bit. It's got a couple of little tricks up its sleeve, so if you're in town, if you stop, it actually turns the rear cylinder off to stop it pumping heat at you as you're stationary. And once you're up and going, it does tend to sort of, I guess, disperse and blow away. But if you're going to be doing a lot of town work, you really are going to feel the heat from that air-cooled motor. Moving to the rear of the bike, cool set of Fox shocks at the back here, which actually do a really good job of ironing out the lumps and bumps, especially on our terrible roads here in New Zealand. So you're not getting too many whacks up the backside as you would do on a standard cruiser with, say, a soft tail rear end. Good bit of padding on the seats. Not so sure about the pillion seat, which is a bit on the narrow side, but at least you've got a sissy bar and a back pad here to stop your pillion falling off the back. The sporting aspect continues through to the rubber, with Pirelli supplying the tyres, with the Night Dragon, as I say, 19-inch front, 16-inch rear, with that 180 section in the back, means it doesn't overwhelm the handling, but there's still plenty of grip there when you are cornering. So this is when it gets all confusing on the Sport Chief. It really doesn't give you that feeling that you're on a sports naked bike, especially with these handlebars, which are a bit narrower than you'd expect on a cruiser, and they certainly don't taper back towards you. So you feel like you're in a bit of an attack stance. It's great for when you're carrying speed. I've just been sitting on the motorway, and this fairing does a surprisingly good job of diverting all the wind blast away from you. And it's nice to have things like cruise control, so you can sit there and click the Ks off. But when you're in that attack position and you get a bit carried away in the corners, you do just have to be aware that you've only got 29 degrees, I think, of cornering clearance before things start touching down. So, the Indian Motorcycle Sport Chief. It is a bit sporty, but it is definitely still a cruiser. If you like the no-bagged, typical air-cooled V-twin cruiser, this certainly gives you all that, but with the performance that really goes with a sport tag. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. The engine really is great. Just that torque, the monstrous torque that comes in the mid-range, just gets you all giddy and makes you just want to keep delving into it. For us here in New Zealand, the Sport Chief is $33,495, and for that you get a bike with a fabulous engine, but you also get the good bits. You get the KYB suspension, the Brembo monoblock brakes, and the nice Fox rear suspension. So the ride is exceptional, and I think it's a rather special bike.